the amount of mass to have in that early universe to walk that fine line between gravity and expansion. How big was the margin of error? They realized it was 1 out of 10 to the 60th power. So write a 1 with 60 zeros after it. 1 out of that number is the fine-tuning necessary in the Big Bang model itself. So what is that number? It's just a number. What does a number mean? Well, there's 10 to the 80th power atoms in the universe, and if the universe is a product of a Big Bang that was finely tuned to 1 out of 10 to the 60th power, you divide the two numbers, the margin of error is only 10 to the 20 atoms. That's the amount of matter in a single grain of sand. So picture the entire universe that came from a random Big Bang, supposedly. If there had been one extra grain of sand's worth of stuff anywhere in the universe, gravity would have won, everything would have collapsed into black holes, we wouldn't be here. Conversely, if this random Big Bang had made 1 grain of sand less than the entire universe that we see today, expansion would have won, stars couldn't form, planets couldn't form, etc. Does this sound like a random event to you? Finely tuned to a single grain of sand. Then the problem got worse. Today, they've realized the problem is up to 10 to the 123rd power. So 1 out of this number is the fine-tuning necessary in the Big Bang model. As this author said, our universe appears surprisingly fine-tuned for life, in the sense that if you tweaked many of our constants of nature by just a tiny amount, life as we know it would be impossible. Some of the fine-tuning appears extreme enough to be quite embarrassing. For example, we need to tune the dark energy to about 123 decimal places to make habitable galaxies. So back to our analogy again, if there's 10 to the 80th atoms in the universe, and the Big Bang had to be finely tuned to 10 to the 123rd power, now we're down to less than a grain of sand. We're down to less than an atom within a grain of sand. We're down to 10 to the minus 43 of an atom. That's this fraction of the mass energy of a single atom is how finely tuned this random event had to be. As this very secular author said, this was a cataclysm for physicists. And the only way that we know how to make sense of it is through the reviled and despised anthropic principle, which is the idea that the universe had to form in such a way that people could live here. And you can tell what he thinks of that idea by the adjectives he uses, right? So how do you explain this if you don't want to accept that there's a creator behind it all? Well, of course, you can say the cosmos is designed, but they've already taken that option off the table. Some will say it's survivor bias, that, well, if the universe weren't this way, we couldn't be here to talk about it. That's not an explanation, though, is it? So most today are increasingly moving to a solution called the multiverse. And indeed, this is quickly becoming the consensus view.